Coming up, Tesla beats Wall Street, but 50,000 unsold cars say something different. China opens the biggest car show on the planet today, and what's on that floor should make Detroit nervous. Tesla is also quietly bringing back its most anticipated product ever, the affordable car. And the tariff refund machine started rolling this week with billions already being processed. Welcome to Auto Headquarters News, your weekly digest of everything moving in the automotive and tech world. I'm your host. Let's get into it. Tesla dropped its Q1 2026 earnings Wednesday night, and the first reaction from Wall Street was not bad. Revenue came in at $22.4 billion estimates, beating estimates. Gross margin hit 21.1%, well above the 17.5% analysts were expecting. Free cash flow, $144 billion estimates, gets forecasts that had actually predicted negative cash flow, and earnings per share of 0.41 cents above the 0.37 consensus. Stock jumped over 3% in after hours. So far, so good. But here's where it gets interesting. Tesla produced 408,000 vehicles in the quarter. It only delivered 358,000. That's 50,000 cars sitting in parking lots in inventory. And the energy storage business, which was supposed to be the growth story, dropped 38% compared to last quarter. Capital expenditure jumped 67% year over year to $249 billion estimates. And the CFO said CapEx for the full year will hit $25 billion, up from a $20 billion forecast they gave just 3 months ago. Here's the thing about Tesla's earnings. The numbers that look good are about the past. The numbers that look concerning are about the future. A beat on margins is great, but 50,000 unsold vehicles is a demand problem in slow motion. And spending $25 billion in a single year, that's more than most automakers invest in an entire product cycle, is a massive bet that autonomy and AI will deliver. If it works, Tesla looks like a genius. If it doesn't, that cash burn is going to sting. There's also a detail buried in the report. Tesla mentioned a one-time benefit related to tariffs that helped boost profits. But the CFO confirmed on the earnings call that the company has not yet received any refund from the Supreme Court tariff ruling. So that bump, whatever it was, came from somewhere else. My honest read on these results, Tesla is a company in transition, and transitions are messy. The core car business is struggling. Deliveries missed for the 4th straight quarter. Inventory is building up, and the Model Q that everyone's been waiting for still isn't here. But the margin expansion is real, the cash flow turnaround is real, and the infrastructure spending suggests they're building towards something big. The question is whether the car business can hold together long enough for that something big to arrive. And speaking of the Model Q, because this week we actually got an update on that, let's hold that thread and come back to it in a few minutes, because it's big enough to deserve its own moment. But first, let's get out of the earnings call and into something a lot more visual, because today in Beijing, the largest auto show in the history of the planet officially opened its doors. AutoChina 2026 opened its media days this morning in Beijing, and the numbers alone are staggering. 380,000 square meters of exhibition space. That's over 50 football fields, side by side, 1,451 vehicles on display, 181 world premieres. It is, without question, the largest auto show ever held anywhere on Earth, and the theme they chose for this edition, future of intelligence, not future of mobility, not future of EVs, intelligence. That word choice tells you everything about where China thinks this industry is going. The headliners, BYD just announced their 2nd generation Blade battery with sub-10-minute charging. Xiaomi, yes, the phone company, debuted a Vision Gran Turismo concept supercar developed in partnership with Sony's PlayStation. CATL, the world's largest battery manufacturer, announced what they called the densest lineup of new battery technologies ever presented at a single event. And Tesla, notably absent. For the 2nd major Chinese show in a row, Tesla didn't show up. Here's why every North American car buyer should be watching Beijing this week. Everything on that floor, the 10-minute charging, the Huawei AI cockpits, the Level 3 autonomy systems, is what will compete directly with American and European brands in your local market within the next 2 to 3 years. We're not talking about cars that only work in China. BYD, Xpeng, and NIO have been expanding globally, and the technology gap is closing fast. Legacy brands know it. BMW showed up with 16 new models. Volkswagen brought their ID. UNX08 developed entirely with Chinese tech partners in just 24 months. Even the Europeans are adapting their products to Chinese standards and Chinese software because that's where the innovation is happening fastest right now. If American automakers aren't watching Beijing closely this week, they should be. What I keep coming back to is the speed. A car developed in 24 months with cutting-edge AI and a drag coefficient that rivals a supercar being shown by a phone company. Xiaomi didn't exist as an automaker 3 years ago. That's China speed, and it's not slowing down. Tesla's absence from this show feels symbolic to me. Whether it's strategic or just a sign of how stretched the company is right now, I don't know. But showing up matters, and China is showing up. Now let's get back to that Tesla thread I mentioned earlier, because the most talked about product in the EV world just got an unexpected update this week, and it's the car that could change everything for Tesla. A Reuters report from April 9th dropped a headline that sent Tesla fans into overdrive. The so-called Tesla Model Q, an affordable EV priced substantially below the Model 3's $36,990 starting price, potentially around $30,000, is back on the table. According to Reuters sources, Tesla is reconsidering the project to reach a wider customer base after a period where the company had pivoted almost entirely toward robotaxis and autonomy. The specs being discussed: a 48-volt auxiliary battery instead of the standard 12-volt, which reduces wiring, weight, and energy consumption, enough space for 4 adults and 3 large suitcases, and a price point that would make it Tesla's most accessible vehicle by far. Production could potentially begin in Austin later this year. Let's put this in context. Tesla has been promising an affordable car since 2020. The timeline has slipped over and over again. In April 2024, Reuters reported the project had been scrapped entirely. Musk denied it. Then the focus shifted to Cybercab. Now it's back. So you're allowed to be skeptical. But here's why this time feels different. The delivery miss in Q1, the inventory buildup, and the stock pressure are all pointing to the same problem. Tesla needs more buyers. The people who want a $90,000 Model S already have one. The next wave of Tesla growth has to come from first-time EV buyers, younger consumers, and people who currently can't justify the price. A $30,000 Tesla solves that problem almost overnight, and with China building competitive EVs at $20,000, the pressure to move downstream has never been higher. I'll believe it when I see a production date. Tesla's track record on timelines is, let's say, optimistic, but the logic is undeniable. 50,000 cars sitting in inventory, and your cheapest model starts at nearly $37,000. Something has to give. If the Model Q launches at $30,000 with solid range and that 48-volt architecture, it won't just help Tesla, it'll reshape the entire affordable EV segment in America. That's a product worth watching very closely. And finally, let's close with the story that ties a lot of this week together, because the cost of cars in America, the pressure on automakers, and the future of EV pricing all connect to one Supreme Court decision that started moving real money this week. This is the biggest trade policy story of the year, and it went from ruling to reality this week. Back in February, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that Trump's tariffs, imposed under a 1977 emergency powers law, were unconstitutional. The president, the court said, had overstepped Congress's authority to set import taxes. That ruling was a landmark, but rulings don't move money. What moves money is what happened on Monday, April 20th. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection opened its refund portal. The scale is enormous. Over 330,000 businesses that paid tariffs are now eligible to file for refunds. The first phase covers $170 billion in total tariff payments across 53 million shipments. Automakers and suppliers are among the biggest recipients. As of April 14th, just before the portal opened, 56,000 importers had already registered, representing $127 billion in eligible claims. Approved refunds are processed within 60 to 90 days. Connect the dots. Those 25% import tariffs push the average new car price in America to $50,729 in early April. That's an $820 jump in a single month. GM paid $3.1 billion in tariffs in 2025 alone. Volkswagen posted massive losses. Every automaker with a global supply chain felt it, because even American-made cars use parts from Mexico, Germany, Japan, and South Korea. Now that money is coming back, it doesn't go directly to consumers. The refunds go to the businesses that paid the tariffs. But in a competitive market, that relief should eventually translate into pricing pressure. Whether it happens fast enough to matter for 2026 buyers is the real question. The average car at $50,000 is already at the edge of what the mass market can absorb, especially with consumer confidence at historic lows. What I find remarkable about this story is the speed. From Supreme Court ruling in February to money moving in April. That's actually fast by government standards. For automakers, this is a lifeline arriving at exactly the right moment. Between EV transition costs, Chinese competition eating into market share, and a consumer base that's genuinely nervous about the economy, every billion recovered matters. The tariff reversal won't fix everything, but it buys the industry some breathing room, and right now, breathing room is exactly what it needs. So that's your week. Tesla beats earnings but leaves 50,000 cars unsold and revives the affordable car everyone's been waiting for. The world's biggest auto show opens today in Beijing, and China is not slowing down. And the tariff refund machine is officially running, with billions already in the pipeline for the auto industry. My question for you this week: if Tesla actually launches a $30,000 Model Q this year, would that be enough to make you switch to electric? Drop your answer in the comments. I genuinely want to know where you stand. Subscribe so you don't miss next week's roundup, and share this with someone who follows the auto world. I'll see you next week. Take care.